Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my overview of Star Trucker. So for those not across it, I do overviews on this channel. It's where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game. That's the Steam refund window. Steam says that you can make up your mind about whether you want to keep a game or not in that time, and broadly speaking, as a rule, I would agree. And say that 20 hours in, you're probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short, punchy video, keep it around 10 minutes, give you broad strokes info, and you can make up your mind yourself. So straight off the bat, Star Trucker, what a banger of a game. I kind of knew it was going to be. I played it and showcased it in one of the previous Steam Next Fests. Easily one of my most anticipated games of the year, and so far it does not disappoint. But as I said, the demo build seemed pretty close to feature complete, at least from the front end, so we'll do a bit of a retread. Effectively, it's all in the name, it's all in the B-roll. You're doing long-haul trucking in this very cool and well-realized space setting where you have highways and express lanes all sort of denoted in a kind of absurd, but it works so well, style, which also serves mechanically as well. I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but you can go cross-country if you want. You don't have to stick to the super highways that are denoted, but they're the only places that are clear of debris. And you might be incentivized to cut corners or go looking for salvage or whatever. Maybe you're trying to get a thing from point A to point B faster, because a lot of these lanes will sort of curve their way into a central hub and then back out again, so they won't be the most direct route, but they're definitely the safest. And then if you go and hit debris, if you hit it hard enough, you can end up having like external oxygen leaks, and you'd have to go external on an EVA to repair your truck. But that's a good little screenshot, I suppose you could say, of how there are so many clever mechanics in here that layer over each other, and it makes for a really rich, fun game, which is something it's becoming a little bit more rare in gaming. And I think you'll find a lot of the games that people that want more, let's say, depth from, we start drifting towards complexity for the sake of complexity. And to me, that's kind of a band-aid fix. Just making your game overwhelmingly complex and systems heavy will create a certain challenge for a certain mind, let's say like mine, more engineering side of the spectrum than creative. But that doesn't necessarily make it a good game, especially when you figure out how the moving parts work. So this has its systems, and there's quite a few, but I wouldn't say it's hyper complex, but there is definitely sort of a synergy and an interlocking of how everything fits together. For example, to keep pulling on that thread, let's say, and I did recently towards the end of my playtime, crash into some debris, and I was kind of venting oxygen. Now, you've got little displays that you can interact with at your console, and it gives you a sort of delta V decay across your ship. Now, I actually belted it pretty hard, and I had like 5 leaks. So you jump into your spacesuit and go external. Now, the spacesuit has 2 stat lines. It has oxygen, and it has energy. And effectively, oxygen, self-explanatory, is kind of time abroad, but the energy is directly related to essentially repairing the sides of your ship. So I went out to plug, I think I could plug 4 of the 5 holes before I ran out of energy. Then you've got to hang the suit back up in the suit holder, which in turn has its own little console that you can slot batteries into. And if you go back to the front console, you could see that the drain rate to recharge both my oxygen and power on my suit was now starting to load pretty hard on the network from both the oxygen scrubbers for the whole ship and the actual sort of energy relay transfer system to the suit. And it's still quite slow as well. And it was one of those things, do I sit here and wait while I vent oxygen, albeit at a fairly slow rate because I plugged most of the holes? Or do I continue on my way while I vent, allowing my suit to recharge and just sort of try and multitask a little bit? So there's layers there, and it's really interesting. When I tried to stop hitting the debris, I hit the air brake, which is kind of a hard stop. It doesn't have to make sense. Who cares? I know you're in space and it's 0G, and there's a soft Newtonian system. You can turn off driver assist, which is flight assist, if you're used to that sort of piloting maneuvers. But you can bang the air brake, and that serves to dump a chunk of your oxygen reserve to stop you fast, which in turn is going to have to recharge, and then that's going to drain the batteries that you have to replace. My gravity batteries went out pretty fast, and so everything starts floating around. Now, I managed to avoid too much trouble this time around, but I still remember explicitly from when I was playing the demo build, I went through like a jump gate, which is how you move from instance to instance. and I had no gravity on, and all my boxes and shit just smashed around the cabin and broke, which then leads into another system. You can internally transport items from point A to point B on top of your freight contracts that you're taking. So yeah, it's got some sort of Euro Truck simulator, pick up a trailer, move it from point A to point B for a payout, but you also have internal cabin weight and loose items there, and there's a whole little mini game system of putting things in boxes and what have you. So you can buy low, sell high in what you would probably call a traditional trade economy RPG system in most player economies. But you actually have a rated cabin weight, which is denoted, I think it's like 200 kilos or whatever, which I was over. And this is how I got myself in all sorts of trouble, because I got flagged by a way station when I was moving through a hub and decided stuff it, because I knew I was over the weight, because I bought some tanks of butane, which I was just loosely carrying around in my ship. So I basically just ignored the hail to the weight station and jumped to the next system, and lo and behold, they hailed me and said, nah, you're fined, and they fined me thousands of dollars, in which point I went into an overdraft the game has built in. You've got like a $5,000 negative kitty you can go into. Beyond that, I think you get restrictions on what you can buy beyond essentials and the timer, and if you fail to clear in the timer, you'll bankrupt and game over. But even just before I lose the thread, the reason I mentioned the gravity thing is if you do lose gravity and you ignore it and all this crap floats around, apart from the fact that a stray box can kill you, I believe, they all have health points as well. So for all the dodging weight stations and trying to buy up this, that, and the other to sell at profit, you have to be careful because they're all kind of delicate. If you drop them from hip height onto the ground, they'll lose a few hit points, and if they drop far enough, they'll be unsellable. So yeah, it's actually really quite inspired. Dare I say, a melding of not just two genres, but multiple moving parts. If you find yourself already attracted to Euro Truck Simulator, this would be a no-brainer to at least give a go. But if you find that maybe just the long-haul trucking isn't quite enough to hold you, this might actually fill that gap perfectly. Because while I wouldn't strictly call it an RPG, though you do get XP and you unlock like new licenses, or as I'm sort of trying to speed run at the moment, higher cargo internal limits, because I refuse to give up that way of life. You can start, taking long haul contracts or fragile contracts. There's all these trees that you can unlock through there. You have to keep your rig fueled. Obviously, that battery system I was talking about is a really big part of how you power the ship, and so you can get down to the wire where maybe you don't have enough batteries. You got to just maybe you have to run without gravity because you'll suffocate, or maybe your truck won't even start. Something's got to give, and you got to pick which. Also, I don't want the video to blow out too long, but obviously I highly recommend it. There's a CB radio system which serves as a sort of side. You can do missions for other truckers and interact with them. It's quite cute. It's a little interactive, and it's how they're clearly doing their narrative, such as it is. And I like it. It's kind of more backseat. I don't even want to bring it up with something like Hard Space Shipbreaker, when you take a brilliant game and then you try and make the story the main thing at the last second. Great way to piss the entire player base off. This seems to be doing it the correct way. It knows that the strength is the gameplay loop, and a little bit of the salad dressing is some narrative hooks that you can play with your CB and do little respond choices. And I suppose finally, before I finish out, the radio stations. Oh my God, this has the best radio. Well, I mean, it's only one radio station, but it's so well done and realized. That's how you should do it. You're an indie game or what have you. You're not GTA. You're not Rockstar. So you do one station and you do it bloody good. All the tracks are so cool. The little snippets and ads, oh, it's so great. They're not going for edgy Rockstar humor. It's very played straight. All the adverts are a bit more dad jokes and all that, but it really does tick that space cowboy, I suppose Cowboy Bebop vibes I get, even though that's less about trucking and more about space cowboy bounty hunting, I guess. But to me, it's evoking the same sort of mouthfeel. And if you can hear the grin on my face, it's because I'm loving it. This is one of the most fun games I've played this year. Anyway, team, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go play some more. You should pick it up. It's on sale, but it's still dirt cheap anyway. It sits just higher than what I would call the high end of indie, and definitely the bottom end of AA price. So for what you're getting here, worth your time, worth your money, unmistakably. Anyway, might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.